Hi, I'm Steve Adler. Good evening. You got a minute? All right, so we're getting into some scary times. A lot of things happening. Big changes today that might have an impact on our future. We're going to talk about all of that, but first we're going to start with the numbers. Let's begin with the first dashboard. Again, this is on the city's website. You can get this either mobile or for desktop. We always start with the number of hospitalizations, and it is 71. It's a new record for us. 71 daily hospitalizations. You can see the 7-day running average is 58.3. That's the number that's most concerning. As that number goes up and up, that's where we start having difficulties in our hospitals. The modelers tell us that when our 7-day average gets to be 70, we have to take a look at whether we move to a different emergency stage in that multicolored graph in the middle. The faster we're going up to 70, the more likely we have to go into red. If we can slow it down so that we're getting up to 70 at a little bit slower pace than we're moving right now, then we can go higher than 70 and still stay in orange before we go to red. So it's not only the number, it's the speed at which we enter. The modelers tell us if we can slow down the rate of acceleration, we can go all the way up to 123, not just starting at 70, before we would have to go into the red zone. So we're going to continue to watch that. So we're at 71 today, which means we're still going up way too fast. We've done some things, hopefully, in the community over the last week. The governor gave us the ability to enforce masks in businesses a week ago. We started doing that. The chamber came out with a campaign about being a city of us. And I think that it started changing behaviors in the city. I'm not sure if it was enough or not. We'll see. But behaviors started changing. But when behaviors change, the first thing that's going to slow down will be new cases, because that's the earliest indicator. But a change in behavior is going to take a week, several days to a week before we start seeing, maybe a week and a half before we start seeing a change in new cases. But a change in behavior is going to take 2 weeks, 2.5 weeks, maybe 3 weeks before we see a change in hospitalizations. And then depending on who's going into the hospital, ICU units and ventilators might even be a lagging indicator behind that. So when we're looking at this 71 number going up, and we're trying to decide that 7-day average at 58 that's going to rise, and it's going to get to 70. And we're saying at that point, are we rising too fast? We're probably going to look at some of the other indicators, some of the earlier indicators, to see if we're beginning to slow down. We'll do that in more detail as we move forward on each day, but that's what we're watching. So anyhow, 71 new cases today, high, taking our 7-day moving average up to 58.3. You take a look at hospitalizations today. The 7-day averages are shown down at the bottom. Hospitalizations, 7-day average is 356. ICUs, 7-day average 125, ventilators 60. You compare that 7-day average to what it actually number is today to see if you're going rapidly or if you're going above your 7-day average or if you're headed down, and how fast you're going up or down. As you look at that 356, the number of people in our hospitals tonight, 415. So it's above our 7-day average, which means we're pointing up. ICUs, in our ICUs today, 145, higher than our 7-day average of 125. Ventilators were 70 today, higher than our 60. And again, we would expect these numbers to continue to rise, even if our change in behaviors last week were significant, because the people who are hospitalized in ICUs and on ventilators had their futures pre-programmed based on conduct and infection 2, 3, maybe even 4 weeks ago. So those are those numbers. The new cases today, 571. That is closer to our 7-day average of 540 than the other numbers. So that might be a sign that over the last week, our behaviors are slowing down, maybe the number of new cases. We don't know. It's still higher than our 7-day average, which means we're still on an increase. But how fast that increase is, we don't know. But I'll tell you, the more people that wear masks, the more people that social distance, the more people that are aware, the more people that stay home, the more people that don't go out to a restaurant or don't gather in large groups, that number has the capacity to slow down. And what we know is if we can slow it down enough, maybe we don't have to go into a shelter in place. But we are right on the edge trying to make that determination now. Why don't you go ahead to the next one, Anita? This is the second page of the dashboard on the city site. It has the numbers we talked about a second ago, the 415 hospitalizations, 145 in the ICU, 70 on the ventilators. This page also tells you the total number of cases that we now have, 10,695. Yesterday, we broke over 10,000. Deaths, 133. Deaths at 133 is an increase over where we were yesterday. I think yesterday was 128. And it was. So if we had 5 people that passed away today, and our thoughts and prayers are with those families. This is real. There are people in our hospitals right now on ventilators in ICUs that are pretty sick. So mentioning them in your prayers would be a good thing. Those are our numbers right now. Moving past the numbers, just to note at a high level, 30,000 foot view. Yesterday, the United States set a new record in cases. We passed 50,000 new cases in the United States. Which is just a staggering one-day number for new cases. What we're seeing in Texas in terms of this sharp incline, which is, if unabated, is going to overwhelm our hospitals in 2 weeks, 10 days to 3 weeks, is being seen in other cities and other states across the country. 23 states now have paused or rolled back their reopening plans. And it's good when cities and states make sure that what they're doing follows the science and the evidence and the data, because it doesn't lie. And this is not political, it's not partisan. The virus jumps from person to person, and the closer we are together and the more times we're together, the virus loves it. It's just looking for somebody close by to jump onto. But our governor today pulled back a little bit more to give cities and us a better chance to try to bend this curve and stop this. And I appreciate the governor taking that action. He did it because he's looking at charts the same way we're looking at charts. Let me show you the 3 charts the governor is taking a look at. That he referenced in the work he was doing. The first one was hospitalizations. No coincidence that he also leads with hospitalizations. He and I are talking to the same kinds of medical advisors, in fact, some of the same advisors. But that's what's happening in Texas, and you can see how rapidly this has gone up. And some of that increase that we're seeing there may very well be due to Memorial Day. And the folks that thought this was over, it was a pretty day. So they went out for some Memorial Day barbecues. They thought they could. It's kind of like the person that is on a diet but gets up at midnight and hits the fridge to get a little something extra to eat. The truth is that if you do that, the weight will not go down. You get up the next morning, you get on the scale. Over the next few days, it's going to be higher because of what you did. You can't hide it. You can't pretend like it didn't happen. Doesn't make any difference if anybody noticed it or not. If you're eating cake at midnight in the fridge, your weight's not going to go down. You're going to see it on the scale. That's what happened in Memorial Day. There were a lot of people out partying, a lot of people with friends, a lot of people doing barbecue. a lot of people not masking, a lot of people not social distancing. And that is one of the reasons why we see the numbers. I talk about Memorial Day a lot because we are coming up on July 4th, this weekend. We can't afford to do this weekend what we did as a community on Memorial Day. We can't do it. And I'll talk about that more in just a second. Let's look at the second chart that the governor mentioned in his speech today, positivity rate. This is the percent of people that are showing up positive based on the tests over the preceding 7 days. So this is a 7-day average again. You can see that, after we did the work that we did in Texas with our stay at home, we were like at 14% positivity rate. We all stayed at home. We all showed that kind of discipline across the state. More and more cities did it. The governor did it across the state after states like Austin had taken the lead to do it on our own, driving the positivity rate down. And you can see that we got down to 4%. Now, if you go out in Texas generally, the positivity rate is about at 14%. It is higher than that here in Austin. But you can see, the chances that you're going to run into somebody who's infected anywhere in this state now, much higher than it was just a few weeks ago, higher than this in Austin right now. What's the next slide? The governor looking at the same data saying we've got to do something or else we're just going to be overwhelming hospitals. This is the third one he looked at, daily new cases. Last thing to look at, everybody looks at it. It could vary based on tests. But as we talked about before, the number of new cases is going up much more quickly than the number of new tests is going up. You can see the daily number and the 7-day average that they're running there and how our numbers are going up, down to about 1,500 new cases a day not too long ago, up now to 8,000 new cases in the last couple of days. Based on those numbers, the governor changed his order, and he changed his order in two really important respects. So you can take that down, Anita. Two in real important respects. The first thing that he changed in his order was to say that there should be no gatherings now greater than 10. His old order had 100. Our order here locally had 10, but we really couldn't enforce it. But now the governor has brought his down to 10. Your local order says we shouldn't be having any social gatherings right now until we can get a handle on this, and no gatherings greater than 10. There are some exceptions to that the governor has in place. The exceptions are things like religious services, youth camps, recreational sports programs for youth and adults. Also accepted from that at a 50% occupancy limit are sporting events, water parks, amusement parks, rodeos, and equestrian events. What I say in my local order, and tonight I'm entering a local order to formally take ours down to the 10 that the governor said. What our local order says is even though the governor has made those exceptions that you can take advantage of, it is recommended here that everybody avoid taking those exceptions if there's any way that you can possibly do it. Every one of those exceptions presents a risk to the community. Every one of them. Every one of them will work against us getting our numbers down as low as they can possibly be. The governor, because he thinks those are important events, has said they don't have to abide by the 10-member rule. And that is the law that he set out. I'm just urging everybody, if you can, please don't take advantage of those exceptions. Please try as best you can to abide by the limit of 10. And then the other thing that the governor did that was real significant is he now said that it was mandatory that everyone wear masks. Everyone wear masks. That's everybody older than 10. The CDC recommends that children over 2 wear masks. Locally, our health department recommends children over 6 should wear masks. But the enforceable law is set up by the governors. Children 10 and folks older than 10 have to wear masks now. You have to wear masks whether you're inside or whether you're outside. Again, there are exceptions to that, like if you're working out outside or if you're eating. If you're hearing impaired and you need to be able to communicate with someone, if you have a physical issue or a disability, I mean, those kinds of exceptions exist. They were already the kinds of exceptions that were in our order. This is significant, and I don't want to underplay how hard probably it is for our governor, who's a Republican, to take that position because there are just so many people that question it. But I have been saying for a long time that the governor stepping forward to make it mandatory was a really important message to send. The governor did it because the science demonstrates that it is effective and it works, and we need to do it. And now that the governor has ordered it, there is now a way for local folks to enforce it. We can levy a fine for individuals that are not wearing masks, although no one wants to levy a fine. And again, there aren't enough police to really enforce this well. It's got to be something we want to do. That said, July 4th, this is a weekend when there's going to be a lot of temptation for there to be big parties for groups greater than 10 to gather, for people to be outside without their masks. So I'm asking you this weekend, if you see anything like that, call 311 and report it. We're really going to have to enforce this each ourselves as best we can. We cannot bear to have a July 4th weekend like the Memorial Day weekend that we had before. So now groups no greater than 10. Thank you, Governor. Now everybody has to wear face coverings. Again, thank you, Governor, for making that mandatory. I want to play you what the governor said at the end of his video. Can we do that, Anita? We don't have any volume. Well, sounds like we might have a little sound there. So here I'm trying to give the governor a tremendous amount of credit, even playing him on my show. If you see the governor, tell him that I tried to do that. What the governor says, and he plays this on his Twitter posting, he says we have a small window to try to make this work. He urges everybody to now wear their masks and to mind the social distancing. He emphasizes that we don't have a lot of time to turn this around, and that's very true. So Anita, if you'll take that down, I want to thank the governor for doing that. I hope it's enough. I hope people abide by this. We're going to be taking a look over the next few days at the early indicators, case numbers and the like, to see if we're slowing down the trajectory, because we're real concerned that our hospital is going to be overwhelmed in 2 or 3 weeks. And if we're not able to turn these numbers around, then it's something we need to take a look at. Regardless of what we do now, everybody has to start getting ready for a future, for a year, where we are opening and operating businesses very differently than we have ever done before. For a year, going to a restaurant or going to retail or going to anywhere is not going to be the same as it was in the past. If in fact we want to try to sustain opening businesses and going back to school. So I need everybody to start getting in this mindset that we're going to start living lives differently, hopefully open, but differently than we have before. Let me close by, again, and I mentioned that this weekend is July 4th. Watch your fireworks on TV. As the governor says, the safest place for you to be is at home. If you can be at home, please be at home this weekend. In fact, even past this weekend, that would be good. What do you do if you're at home? Some of my favorite kind of togetherness stories. You could do worse than bringing out an old family recipe with your family on the July 4th weekend, or maybe you could become a foster parent to some puppies, or bring some puppies home, always popular with the kiddos. Hey, not puppies, not a puppy person. Bring some foster parenting for some kittens. They didn't enjoy taking the picture, but I'm sure they enjoyed being in the new home. Anita wanted me to show this picture. These are people children that are redoing their parents' bathroom. Doesn't look like a lot of fun to me, but Anita thinks that this would be a great thing to happen in her bathroom. So we're showing that picture. Hey, if you get a chance to play dress up, can't do any better than that. I love this picture. Or all else fails, do what this family does, just fall into a big, what they call a love puddle. I love that too. I'll see you tomorrow, and we'll say our goodbyes before the July 4th weekend. Please tell your friends, tell everybody, this July 4th, spend it with your family. And with that, good night, y'all. Take care and be safe.